They did it. They made the big deal with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Welcome into another edition of Southwest Bias, brought to you by our friends at the Husband and Wife Law Team. If you've had a serious injury, call the Husband and Wife Law Team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at husbandandwifelawteam.com. And we are live from Studio K, brought to you by our friends at Circle K. Become a member of the Inner Circle today for free by downloading that Circle K app. Look, I have a caffeine addiction. You guys know it. I have my Coke Zero here every day. I tried to stop a handful of weeks ago, and guess what? I got jittery. I got that itch. I could not do it. And that's how I've felt over the last few days when it comes to the NBA trade deadline. I am watching the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference going nuts. Going ham, Anthony Davis going, all sorts of deals that nobody expected. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. calls Utah home now. My guy Jock Landale goes from Utah to Atlanta after being in Memphis. It's insanity out there. And I got a little itchy. I got that addict itch a little bit when it came to the Suns doing something. I was like, I need my fix. I love the NBA trade deadline. I love it so much. I love the chaos and the insanity of it. I need the Phoenix Suns to get in. And I knew they were going to stay relatively quiet. Now, this morning, they scratched that itch slightly. Just a little bit. Just enough where I don't feel like I need to put mittens on and try to keep myself from really getting in there. They traded Nick Richards and Nigel Hayes-Davis to the Milwaukee Bucks for not Giannis. Not Bobby Portis. You got Amir Coffey and Cole Anthony. Now, a lot of people go, well, what the hell is that? Let me explain. It's tax money. That's what it comes down to. People hate to hear about that, but the Phoenix Suns got under the luxury tax for the first time since 2021. Big deal because now it opens up some options for them in the offseason with what they're able to do. They're not going to be in the repeater tax, but it also allows them to sign Jamare Bouye to a full contract. They have the open roster spot. They have the money to do it now, which means he will be playoff eligible. Now, you look at their return in general and you go, well, what are these guys going to do? Let me tell you, Amir Coffey will actually have an ability to make this rotation. He's 6'7", 210. 6'7", as I've got Kevo behind the Mac just shaking his hands like that. But he has the ability to go out there and play some 3 and D. And that's something the Suns can always use. He actually is kind of the archetype of what you hope Ryan Dunn will be. Maybe a little bit more rebounding from Ryan, as Amir doesn't have the greatest career stats with that. Actually, Kevo, do we have those stats that I can throw up for his career? Amir Coffey, 6.3 points, 1.8 rebounds, 0.4 steals, shot 38.1% from deep on 2.3 threes. He can hit the 3. 38% for his career. He can go out there, and with the spacing that the Suns have, he might be able to add some rotational depth for them and do some things that they need that fit into exactly the way they play. So maybe a little less Isaiah Livers, maybe a little less Ryan Dunn, maybe it's a group effort, but somebody that could potentially have an impact. Only making $2 million, not that much money. Cole Anthony the same way. I think he's either moved in a subsequent deal, cut, or he's kind of just a break glass in case of emergency. Now, there's some people that are fascinated with Cole Anthony's game. My biggest problem is his dad, Greg Anthony, was part of the biggest brawl in Suns history when he sucker punched Kevin Johnson while he was in street clothes as a member of the New York Knicks in the 90s. But that's neither here nor there. I can't hold that against Cole unless I can hold that against Cole. But we'll see if he's a part of this going forward. But this was a strategic move. The Phoenix Suns were always playing smart business this season, and that's what the deadline was going to be about. Smart business. Can you get slightly better while also accomplishing getting under that tax? I told you for a month and a half now that I had talked with people and they were either going to make this kind of move or they were going to go fully into that tax. There was zero Zero reason for them to sit like $200,000 over the tax, have to pay that repeater tax and get hit with the penalties. Zero reason. They were either going to dive head first and make some kind of big move, or they were going to make this kind of move to both make financial sense and get you somebody that might be able to crack your rotation, where Nick Richards and Nigel Hayes-Davis just weren't. Plus, you get to have Jamari Bouye, a young guy that they love, that they want to be part of this core if he can continue to play the way he is. He's now on a full contract if they so go that way, which everything I've heard is that's going to be the next subsequent move along with this. The Phoenix Suns are playing smart business, and that's what this season's been about, is being smart, making the offseason moves to put you in a position to be better this year than everybody thought, putting yourself in a position to go in and hopefully continue that Cinderella story in the playoffs. And nobody can tell me unless they wind up the 8th seed and they're taking on OKC, nobody can tell me that they don't have a shot in a 7-game series, because they simply do. That is a fact against anybody in the Western Conference not named OKC. And I guarantee even if they play OKC, they're at least winning 1 or 2 games in a series, even against the Thunder. Let's see what this team can do. Make any subsequent moves in the offseason. I feel like I've used that word subsequent like 40 times in this, but look this offseason and decide if you need to make some kind of major move. Right now, not where you need to go. I think this is exactly the kind of move that they needed to do. I think Amir Coffey might actually wind up having some impact down the stretch, even if it's just a key 3 at a time where your second unit needs that. The Phoenix Suns are deep. They are the Grand Canyon of rosters right now, where before they were the Salt River when it came to standing water. They had no depth last year and the year before. There was none. Now they're not top heavy. They're not Barbie. They're sitting there with the opportunity to have talent throughout the roster. Jalen Green comes back. Devin Booker comes back. All of a sudden, you go, maybe, just maybe there's something going on here. You've got to give the Suns front office a lot of credit. They've navigated what was likely the toughest offseason in Suns history in a trade of Kevin Durant. And they changed an entire culture on a dime. They turned what was questionable at best, what a lot of people said was downright just bad in terms of culture, and they built something. And this move is another one of those, you know what? We're not going to mess with what has gotten us here. And that's not to say Nick Richards or anyone in that deal, Nigel Hayes-Davis, that they were bad locker room guys. And in fact, the opposite, but they had no impact when it came to on the court. So you've kept your culture. You didn't blow anything up. You also got somebody that might crack your rotation. And you got Cole Anthony, where if God forbid that these injuries don't subside, you've got another option that might be able to help you continue to have some depth in your backcourt. The Phoenix Suns have played basketball smart. The Phoenix Suns have looked at it and said, you know what? We can play a little bit of money ball in today's NBA. We can be smarter and more strategic in the way we go about building a roster. That's the way that this has played out. They have built a smart roster. They have figured out how to financially play the game. Took 2.5 years for them to figure that out. They paid almost $500 million on a roster last year that got you 36 wins. This year, like $180 million that you're going to spend, maybe closer to 190, and you've already got 31, and we're at the beginning of February. They figured out the equation in today's NBA. It's a foundation. It's a chance at the playoffs, which is, in this year, nothing anybody expected. A chance to go out there and surprise. And then a chance to build on it in the offseason with financial flexibility. The Phoenix Suns have played this season to perfection. And today, well, it's not sexy. Well, it's not anything that people are going to write home about, and it'll never make it in the top 10 best trades the Phoenix Suns ever made list. It is a smart move. It was the right move. And it scratched that itch that I had to get involved in this trade deadline. But maybe that's just my Southwest bias. We welcome in the dreads behind the desk. It's Kevo. Kevin, how are you, my friend?
Hello. Happy NBA trade deadline day, everyone.
Happy deadline day for those who celebrate. Glad to have you here. Kevin, you look better in that sun than the last guy did. So good to have you
I'm sure I do.
around. What do you make of the Suns right now and what they did?
I agree with most of what you had to say there, and also
No. The job is you agree with it. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Most of what also I was hearing on the Suns podcast when we were listening to it before we went live here. But who do you think is the best player in the trade Nick Richards, in your opinion, by far, or no?
I think him and Amir Coffey have about the same. I think Amir will have more impact here with Phoenix. I think Nick Richards and them are both borderline rotation guys.
Okay, because that was my question. Because I saw people on Twitter, I feel like the discourse on this trade has been pretty negative. But I think it's mostly because people on the trade deadline day, they just want, boom, big blockbuster. Now my team's going to win it all. Sometimes you just got to make moves on the margins, right?
People thought, they can get Bobby Portis. They'll do this. It'll be a bit. No. We've been telling you here for a month that this was the way it was going to go.
Yeah.
That they were going to play on the margins. That they weren't going to do anything to blow it up. As Hello says, the trade is fine. And that's all they were looking for, was a deal to accomplish getting under that tax line and getting a guy that might be part of your rotation. Boom.
Mic drop, Espo. Mic drop. Play the air horn.
There you go. That's simple. And we've been telling you that. By the way, Clippers Nation 25, one of the bias in the chat, says, who cares about the Suns? You're a Clippers fan, for God's sake. The only people that care about the Clippers are apparently you and anybody that's bored with the Lakers when they're not winning. Your franchise has been a dumpster fire and continues to. Why don't you go plant some fake trees, all right? Welcome to the rest of the bias in the chat. And Stacker One, friend of the program. Kibon, Bees, Esperado. Yep, that's me. I'm here. You got Deborah. And we got Kevo in the chat, too. Hello, Connor, Ashley, and everybody else in there. LeBronalist is there as well. Glad to have you guys. Glad to have you as part of the program today. Big guest coming up after halftime. Former Suns general manager Ryan McDonough going to explain what it's like to be in that seat at deadline day. Talk a little bit about some of the past as well. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are on our race to 50K. We're about 200 away from getting to 50,000 YouTube subscribers. So hit that. Hit the like button. On the other side of halftime, former Suns general manager and my friend, I think I can call him that, Ryan McDonough, joins us right after halftime. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You love Vegas, so do they, but you don't have to travel 5 hours via car or go to the airport and deal with that hassle. No, from now through April, they're bringing Vegas to you. That's right. You're going to get to experience everything you love about Las Vegas at one of their 4 Valley casinos, and you're going to get exclusive concerts, extended DJ sets, showgirls. You're going to get chef-driven dining, which is unbelievable, pop-up bars, and surprise cameos. What Vegas celebrities are going to show up? We don't know because it's a surprise, so why don't you get out there? Plus, don't miss the fabulous Corvette giveaway and special perks for loyalty members. If you have not heard about the fabulous Corvette giveaway, my friends, you can land a Corvette and they're giving away 4 of them. So why not get yourself in the lap of luxury and enjoy some Vegas? Because you bring you, they're going to bring Vegas, only at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathila.com for the full calendar of events. And Window Depot. No, they don't just sell windows, all right? No, trains don't come through. That's not the depot part. They have a little of everything because they are more than just a window store, and they've been serving the state of Arizona since 2002. Yeah, they've been serving the state of Arizona since I was a senior in high school. That's how long they've been here. So you know you can trust them. And while they started with just windows, they're now so much more than a window store because they got windows, doors, skylights, cabinets, countertops, sinks, and so much more. So if you're looking to redo a bathroom like I am, and my wife said don't call it dilapidated or out of style, just looking to redo it. If you are, they can help you. Plus, they got designers who will help you create it in the vision that you have. Plus, in-store pickup, that in-stock pickup that they're ready to get you what you need. So visit one of their 7 Arizona locations and see for yourself why they're more than just a window store. A big thank you to 80s band Boston for playing halftime. Hope you enjoyed that. And now I'm going to welcome in another man with Boston connections, a man that was in the GM seat, plenty of trade deadlines for the Phoenix Suns. It's Ryan McDonough. Ryan, thanks for taking a few minutes.
Espo, always great to be on with you.
Ryan, I gotta start here. Trade deadline day. You're getting, we're a handful of hours away. What is it like as a GM in the room trying to navigate an NBA trade deadline?
Well, I will say it's a lot more stressful than doing this show with you, Espo. I slept well last night. Maybe got a good 7-8 hours and a full meal this morning. You're tired. I mean, in all honesty, because this is obviously the deadline's today at 3 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock your way. But you've been doing this for months now. As you know, in the NBA, the trade window really opens on December 15th. And then you have about 2 months straight of talks and discussions. As we know, teams usually hold their best offers till the very end. That's why we've seen a flurry of activity in the last 48 hours. So you want to make sure you execute on whatever the top objectives are for your team. Obviously, that sounds simplistic, but is it to add to the current roster? Is it to maximize value for one of your veteran players? Is it to save money? What is the goal? And so you're trying to do that, and then you're trying to figure out with the other 29 teams, is this their best offer if we're in discussions, or are they going to come back, in half an hour before the deadline, 5 minutes before the deadline with a better offer, and then weigh that against what the rest of the league has. So it's a busy time. Frankly, it's not the most fun time because unlike the draft or free agency, we just kind of get something in those events, Espo, right? The draft, you get a pick, you pick somebody. As we joke in the NBA, everybody's undefeated on draft night. Free agency, usually if you bid the highest, you get the player. People do that. They feel great about it. The trade deadline is a little bit different because something has to go out. You have to give to get. And that's the hard part, especially when considering that there are 8 games in the NBA tonight. More than half the league is playing here in just a few hours. So you're also factoring that in. If your team has a game tonight or even tomorrow, or if there's travel involved, there are a lot of logistical factors that go into the decision as well. And, frankly, it can be difficult to navigate all that with so many moving pieces.
How much of a framework of a deal is done long before a trade deadline day? Because, I mean, a lot of people just assume you pick up the phone, an hour before the deadline, and you're like, hey, give me X, Y, and Z. I'll give you this. Let's get this done. They think it's like that, that Draft Day movie with Kevin Costner, where I assume you're doing a lot of legwork. I assume you're not using the NBA trade machine 5 minutes before the deadline ends.
No, that's correct. And unfortunately, when I was with the Suns, my assistant did not look like Jennifer Garner. No shade to anybody who was there, but to bring in a draft day reference. But in all seriousness, there's a lot going on. You are trying to set the foundation and kind of build up to a deal, or hopefully a deal. We're trying to figure out how serious other teams are. We know now some of the talk is we're within about an hour and 45 minutes of the deadline, is that teams around the league, especially those who were talking to the Milwaukee Bucks, ultimately felt like they were not serious about trading Giannis and pivoted. And that's the challenge, Espo, the opportunity cost is you can't be all in on one thing, because if another team pulls out or pivots or decides, their asking price is more than you're willing to give, then you have to have other options available. In a lot of cases, obviously, you have to be willing to walk away and not do a deal. So that's the challenge of it. A lot, going on. And frankly, I think, to some extent, what happened last year with the Lakers and the Hornets with the Mark Williams trade, being right at the deadline, remind our listeners and viewers that there is a period of time after the deal, just even if it's announced right at 3 o'clock today or before, Then the players report to the market they got traded to. They have to pass a medical physical as a condition of the trade. And teams don't like doing this, but they can flunk a physical. And so I bring that up, Espo, because we saw a lot of deals kind of happen earlier this week, including Darius Garland for James Harden and others. And I think part of the reason for that is teams saw what happened last year and saw how, to some extent, the Lakers and Hornets got burned by that and did not want to wait until the very last minute to execute a deal, because as we saw last year, if you're a fan of the Lakers or the Hornets, once the deal was on, there's nothing they could do. And I think for the last third or so of the regular season last year, that negatively impacted those two clubs.
Let's go back in time. Take me to 2015. We're about 5 minutes from the deadline, and Adrian Wojnarowski tweets this, where it says just simply, "Good Lord." And part of that was because of the moves that you and the Phoenix Suns executed right there at the deadline. Obviously, Gorn to Miami, IT to Boston, Knight here to the Suns. But that was like a third of the roster going out the door in the final 5 minutes. What's that chaos like as a GM and the mindset when going through that process?
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up. You kind of gave me PTSD going back to that. No, I think as I reflect on that, the internal communication wasn't great, and I'll put it that way. If you're an employee of a team and somebody above your pay grade is doing some different things and meeting with players and agents that you may get informed about those meetings later. You may never hear about them. You may hear about them from a third party. That makes it really difficult. So that was not a situation I'd recommend. I think in hindsight, we tried to do way too much at the same time. But it is chaotic. There's no question about it. In that circumstance, again, we tried to do too many things. And some of that was to gain more assets. I think we got 3 firsts, 2 for Dragic, 1 for Isaiah Thomas, brought in Brandon Knight, the best young player we could get. But we rushed into that situation a little bit. We should have vetted that out. I think, 48 hours or so before that, Dragic surprising at least us in the front office, maybe not ownership, but us saying, he didn't trust us and demanded a trade and all that, put us in a difficult spot, and one that we should have frankly been more measured and balanced about. Now, at the same time, zooming out, ironically, in a roundabout way, those 2 picks that we traded, turned into Mikal Bridges, and we got one of them back. So, it's I guess in my mind, all's well that ends well. But certainly, I got some PTSD going through that, and as a young GM, would kind of learn from that again, starting with the internal communication, everybody being on the same page, rowing the boat in the same direction, but also not trying to do too many different things at one time, which I think was the case at the 2015 deadline.
Let's ask this. Was there a deal that you ever had, a trade that you looked at and you go, that was my white whale? It was close. I had it. I think that this would have been the deal that kind of that got away. Did you have one of those, whether it was at the deadline or some other time?
Yeah, I would say I did. My last draft in 2018, there was a player that I really liked. I guess he goes by a 3-letter acronym that's not MVP, but that might be applicable too. So yes, I think that was the one that probably, frankly, the last straw for me in my employment. Kind of push for it, pounded the table. It didn't happen, and that's life. Unless you own a team, you don't get to unilaterally make those decisions. But yeah, that's one. Given what he's done, given the fit with current players on our roster, including Booker. Another player in particular we required that night. I really liked the fit there, but again, such is life. You move on. But yeah, I think when that one didn't get done, it was probably time for me to move on from the organization, and obviously they felt the same way.
When you look at the deals that have been made so far in this NBA trade deadline, has anything surprised you, given how restrictive these new CBA rules and the aprons have made the NBA financially?
Yeah, good question, Espo. I think the biggest change overall, and I think this can be hard for some fans and even media members to adjust to, is the league is becoming less about free agency than it ever has been, at least in the recent past. It's more about trades. And the reason for that is the top players almost never hit unrestricted free agency. There's just too much money involved when guys are making 40, 50, 60 million a year or more as the salary cap continues to escalate. So as you know, Espo, most of the superstar players take the money, and then if things don't work out later, they figure it out, whether it's demanding a trade, which is pretty common nowadays. We can debate whether that's good or bad for the league, but that's just what's going on. And so I think the real-time examples of that or what you've seen with teams that probably would surprise some, say, casual NBA fans, what the Washington Wizards did. Actually, they did it twice, bringing in Trae Young and Anthony Davis. What the Utah Jazz, who are and have been among the very worst teams in the league for the last handful of years, they went out and got Jaren Jackson Jr. And you say, well, why would they do that? And I'm fairly certain as these teams sit back and evaluate their cap position, they have plenty of young players. They have a ton of salary cap space. They have a bunch of draft picks. But instead of saying, well, geez, let's go overpay an average player in free agency, it's kind of get out ahead of it and spend our money, spend our assets now, not on another young guy. We don't want to draft another 18 or 19-year-old and wait 3 years for him to develop. We want to be good right away next year. So I think that's kind of a shift and a trend. The other one that really stands out, frankly, and I say this in no disrespectful way, but I think the second tier stars, right? So to name whoever you think the 15 to 35 or 40 best players are in the NBA, not the all NBA guys, not the top 10, but the next tier of stars below them. I think the challenge now, Espo, and it's become a real discussion in front offices, is we can't just blindly give those guys max contracts anymore. Under the old math, it was they're making somewhere in the teens. So if it's 14 to 19 million a year, okay, that those deals are probably movable. If it's, again, 40, 50, 60 million a year and you're wrong, that can really cripple your franchise. So I think you'll see some of that. I think a good example of that was Brandon Ingram last year in New Orleans. He wanted the max. He didn't get it. He got traded to Toronto. And then as he and his agent, evaluated the landscape, they realized, hey, look, if we hit unrestricted free agency, there aren't a lot of teams with cap space, and there are no guarantees that those teams give us the max or near max. So they quickly did an extension with the Raptors. I think you'll see more of those kind of things. And I'm really interested to see what happens with the two guys I mentioned in DC, Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Does that franchise extend them, or do they just kind of play it out? Because obviously they're kind of polarizing players, and really there's significant risk either way, especially if you extend them and they don't play as well, or in AD's case in particular, we know he has an extensive injury history. If you extend them at that level and he gets hurt, then that can really set your franchise back.
I want to take you back to a less PTSD time, the drafting of Devin Booker. When you go back to that, I mean, I remember I was in the building with you, and everybody was saying the ceiling is Klay Thompson light. What did you guys see in the room to go, Devin Booker has the potential to be somebody that is worthy of selecting here in Phoenix?
I think the pre-draft process really helped Devin. We obviously watched him and scouted him heavily at Kentucky. You remember that was a historically good Kentucky team that made it all the way to the national semifinal undefeated. It's probably hard for Suns fans now, especially young Suns fans, to imagine that Devin Booker came off the bench for that team. The Harrison twins, and Andrew and Aaron started, and then Devin and Tyler Ulis, who we ended up drafting the next year in the second round in Phoenix, those guys came off the bench. So I think the Klay Thompson comparisons were a little bit off. Klay, obviously a great Hall of Fame player, but I understood them relative to if you just saw what you saw at Kentucky, which 99% of the people did. It's, the catch and shoot role. That was his role at Kentucky. He didn't do a whole lot else with the ball in his hands. When we had him for the pre-draft workout, and then especially when we went back and broke down high school film and AAU film, we said, okay, this guy's not just a catch and shoot player. There's a lot more here in terms of the ball handling, the playmaking, the pick and roll ability. And then what really stands out about Devin, I know this won't surprise you, Espo, given what he's done as the all-time franchise leading scorer, and go down as one of the great Suns of all time and have his name in the Ring of Honor someday. What really stood out in a positive way was the competitiveness. That we were doing a drill. I remember it vividly. It was kind of a knockout drill, one-on-one, where essentially the offensive players at half court, we throw them the ball on a running start, and the defender has to guard them, one-on-one. And when the defensive player gets a stop, if the offensive player scores, he stays on. You kind of rotate defenders. So Devin kept scoring, and we only have so much time in that kind of workout. So we basically said, okay, we have to go on to the next thing. And keep in mind, Devin at 18 was the youngest player in the draft. And he was basically like, no, bleep that. Like, we're staying until somebody stops me. And I'm sitting there looking like as a GM, the head coach and the owner and people around, like, that's pretty bold, but all right, go ahead. Let's see how long it takes before somebody does stop him. So that was pretty neat. It still stands out, over a decade later. Really excited, obviously, about his career, what he's done as a Sun. I know means a lot to him to be in the Valley. And the other neat part, I suppose, is he canvassed the league. Now that he's been in it over a decade, you can probably count on one hand how many players have been with one team that long. He is one of them, which is really anomalous in today's NBA. And I think it speaks to how much the city and the franchise mean to him personally.
All right, quick one for you. Is the goat story real? Everybody wants to know, were there really goats in your office at one point?
Yeah, speaking of PTSD, no, there were, and that was funny. I know, previous owners a lightning rod, and gets criticized for a lot. That was kind of humorous, other than the goat poop that smelled for a while. The timing of it probably could have been better, in my opinion, because that was the morning that free agency started. I think free agency started at 9 p.m. and that was like at 9 a.m. So it's like, all right, let's talk about our plans for free agency, potential trades. And by the way, does anybody have some Febreze? We can clean this up and make it not smell like a barnyard in here, especially if we bring any players through. So it was funny though. I know that it goes viral for obvious reasons, but it was a funny time, except for the lingering stench, which, as you know, you've lived in Phoenix for a long time. You can't exactly open your windows in late June and kind of air it out in Phoenix. I remember that smell lasting for a while.
Yeah, I'd argue that stench lasted until about 2022, and they finally got it out of the building. He is Ryan McDonough. You can listen to him on the Rosters to Rings podcast. I really appreciate you, Ryan. Thanks for your time.
Espo, always great to be on with you.
Always good to catch up with Ryan McDonough. That is another Southwest Bias in the books. A big thanks to Kevo on the Mac. You can follow him at Kevo Posts. You can follow the show at PHNX_sports. Make sure to head over to the live stream for the Suns trade extravaganza that starts at noon. I'll be over there with the Suns boys. We'll be breaking down anything and everything that comes up at the trade deadline. And we got plenty more coming up tomorrow on Southwest Bias. You can follow me at Espo. And remember, that wasn't just goat poop stench in that building. Ahoy, ahoy.
We all silly like the mayor.